Good morning, my little turkeys. All right, so today we're going to do a little bit of review, and our lesson today is nothing really new. So, a little bit of review of what we already done, and then we're just going to talk about a couple of new things, but not really new. Meh, meh. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is review process. So, pause, try these. You should have a whiteboard, by the way. That's what I would do. Okay, so remember with this process, adding and subtracting, use your foldable, okay? But adding and subtracting, we line up our decimals. So it's 4.567, line up our decimals, line up those place values. Any blanks we fill in with ghost zeros, and we add. Decimals, we should be using graph paper. It's just going to be way easier. So adding 7 plus 0 is 7, 13, 12, bring down my decimal, carry my 1, 8, and 1. Same process here, okay? We line up our decimals. So I put my decimal there, 23,593. Remember that it's super important with subtraction to put in our ghost zeros because now we can't do 0 minus 3, so we need to borrow. That becomes a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. Have to borrow. 2, 15 minus 9 is 6. Can't do that, so we got to borrow. 12 minus 5 is 7. Bring down my decimal. Can't do that, so we got to borrow. 12 minus 3 is 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay, with multiplying, we're just going to do this guy. So go ahead and pause and on a whiteboard, try this guy. Remember, with multiplying, it's a different process, so we need to be making sure that we're using our foldable. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to remove our decimals. There's 2 here and 1 here, and we're going to set it up like normal. So I'm doing 1,645 times 45. Okay, now 5 times 5 is 25. 20 plus 2 is 22. 30 plus 2 is 32, and 5 plus 3 is 8. I've used up my 5, so I'm putting my placeholder. I'm going to grab a new number or new color here. 4 times 5 is, kicked something, 20. 16 plus 2 is 18. 24 plus 1 is 25. And 4 plus 2 is 6. And now I'm adding 5, 2, 10. That's 9 plus 5 is 14, and 7. Now I'm going to grab these. 2 and 1 is 3, so I need 3 decimal places. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 74.025. Now I want to see if that's correct. So what I'm doing here is 16 times about 5. So 5 times 10 is 50. 6 times 5 is 30. I should have gotten about 80, which is correct. Okay, the next process that I want to review is division. So go ahead and pause and use your foldable to try this. Okay, again, division is a little bit different. We're just going to do this guy. We're going to put the first one as our dividend. It goes inside our house. So 160.72 in the house and 16.4 is outside. Now with division, we want to make our divisor a whole number. And whatever we do to our divisor, we do to our dividend, and then we raise our roof. So we put that decimal on top. So now I'm looking at 164. It can't go into 1, can't go into 16, and it can't go into 160. So this is where I'm going to start here is 1,607. Now I know if I multiplied this by 10, I would get 1,640. So I'm pretty sure 9 is going to be my answer here. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 6 is 54, 55, 56, 57. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 is 14. And I subtract. 7 minus 6 is 1. I have to borrow. 10 minus 7 is 3. And 1. 131 is less than 164, so I know I did that correctly. Now I bring down my 2. Now looking at this 1,476, I'm pretty sure if I subtract one group from there, that I'm going to get close to here. So I'm going to start with 8. I'll do it in a different color though. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 3 is 51. And 8 times 1 is 8, plus 5 is 13. I subtract and get 0. Okay, so now that we have reviewed this process, it's super important that we remember to use our foldable, okay? Multiplying and dividing are different from adding and subtracting. In adding and subtracting, we line up our decimals. In multiplying and dividing, we have to move our decimals before we do things. So it's important that we remember that those two things are very different. We're going to do some of these together. The process that I really want to teach you today is applying our operations with rational numbers. So first off, when we're interpreting a word problem, there is a handout at the front called Clue Words. Clue Words, okay? And this handout is going to give you a lot of, clue words to help you figure out when you're going to add, multiply, subtract, divide, answer, equals, those types of things. We're going to use this for the rest of the year. So I want you to make sure that you keep this somewhere safe. Keep it in your folder because we're going to need it again when we get to algebra. The ones that really apply to us are adding, multiplying, subtracting, and dividing. Okay, these words are going to help you. So when we're reading a story problem, if we see a word like altogether, it means that we are going to add. If I see altogether, we get altogether, what is my answer? I know that I'm going to be adding those numbers, okay? So we just want to make sure that we're kind of using this as we're going through, okay? So when I'm looking at a problem like this, I don't want to do that problem. I lied to you. I want to do this problem. Okay, if Casey buys 6.2 yards of blue fabric and 5.4 yards of red fabric, if the blue and red fabric cost the same amount per yard and Casey pays $58 for all of the fabric, what is the cost per yard? So this is a clue word, right? We talked about last time. This tells me that I need to do the cost divided by the yard. But right now, this is actually a multi-step problem because the red and the blue cost the same amount, and we want to find out what is the cost per yard. We actually have to do our 6.2 plus 5.4 first to get 11.6 yards total. And then I have to do the cost per yard, which would be 58 divided by 11.6. So to actually do this, it was a multi-step problem. So then I would do 58 divided by 11.6. I have to move my decimal, raise my roof. So 116 goes into 508. Let's see, less than 5 times. So I'm going to probably start with a 4 here. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. And 4 times 1 is 4. And then I subtract. Comes a 7 and a 10, 6, 1, 116. Oh, it can go in there one more time. Look at that. I was wrong. It was 5 times. So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 5 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and 5 times 1 is 5. So what this actually means is that it costs $5 per yard of fabric. So if she paid $58, she was paying $5 per yard. So we'll do some practice problems with this together in class. But the next thing that I want to talk about is converting decimals and fractions to solve problems. So sometimes we're going to have problems where it tells us, okay, each part of a multi-part question on a test is worth the same number of points. The whole question is worth 37.5 points, and Roz got half of the parts of the question correct. How many points does Roz receive? What we actually have to do here is we have to convert either the decimal to a fraction or the fraction to a decimal. If she got half of the questions right, we can either turn this into a fraction or we can turn this part into a decimal. Personally, I prefer to turn them into decimals. This person says to turn them into a fraction, but I like decimals better. So I would say that this would be 37.5 times, and we know that a fraction as a decimal is 0.5. Remember to turn a fraction into a decimal, and this might want to be in your notes. Fraction into a decimal. So let's erase that. A fraction into a decimal, we actually do the numerator divided by the denominator. So if I have 2/5 and I want it as a fraction, I'm going to do the numerator divided by the denominator. So 5 can't go into 2, so I'm actually going to annex a 0 here, but 5 can go into 20 4 times. And we subtract and get 0. So that as a decimal is 0.4. Okay, it works with any fraction. If I have 7/10, 7 goes in the house, 10 goes outside. 7 can't go into 10, or 10 can't go into 7, so I'm going to annex a 0, put my decimal here. 10 goes into 77 times. So as a decimal, that's 0.7. I find it easier. So here, I would be multiplying by 0.5, okay? So we would take 1 out here, and I'm actually doing 375 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 35 plus 2 is 37. 15 plus 3 is 18. I have 1 here and 1 here, so I need 2. So she actually got 18.75 points on her test, which is the same as what they did here with fractions. You can write 37.5 as 37 1/2, and then you would have to get 75 over 2 by doing your cartwheel and then multiply it by 1/2. So you can get the same thing here by doing fractions. I personally like decimals better, but that is just me. So we will do some practice problems with this. We're going to do this one together as a class, probably this one as well. But your homework is only 4 problems. It's page 133, 1 through 4 all, but they're multi-step. So make sure that you use your clue words and you figure out exactly what you have to do. Some of them you're going to have to add and then divide, add and then multiply, subtract and then multiply. But it's going to be multi-step, and then some of them you're going to have to decide, do I want to convert these to fractions and then do my problem, or do I want to convert these to decimals and then do my problem? So while there's only 4 of them, they are kind of a little bit more difficult just because they have more than one thing that you have to do. So kind of keep that in mind. Okay, good luck. You can do it.